the live stream set up for this session today, associated with Apexlogistics and a discussion around the paradigm shift of e-commerce logistics with Steve Story, who has taught me more in the past week about logistics and freight management than I've ever known. So I'm super excited to introduce you to him, industry expert. Just give me a couple of seconds to verify whether or not our live streams are up and running. I want to make sure that we're covering all of our bases out there in internet land. Tina's in the back room in the control room for us. Tina, are we live on LinkedIn yet?
Tina's on mute.
Yep, Tina is on mute.
Yep, I just got the notification on my phone that it popped up live.
Thank you very much. Okay, Brandon's in the back room. I know that everybody's wondering how come Tina's got a deep voice today. So Brandon and Tina are back in there. All right, so if we are live on LinkedIn, we can get started. And we've got our folks in the room. More people are going to be jumping into the room. Welcome to everybody who's jumping in on Procurement Live and LinkedIn land. Again, another amazing topic of discussion today from one of our permanent residence partners inside of the Procurement Foundry with Apexlogistics. And I said this before, I'll say it again. During the run through for this topic of discussion, I learned more about what's happening in freight, small parcel delivery, and e-commerce delivery than I ever thought possible from Steve. So without further ado, Steve, thank you so much for coming in today. Thank you for spending some time with us today. Thank you for lending us your expertise. I'm going to do some quick housekeeping, and then I want you to introduce yourself, tell everybody who you are, because you're basically the burning bush of this, and I love the fact that we got some of your time today. So, all right, a little bit of housekeeping. As you all know, we do a multi-dimensional live stream here. I've got folks here inside of the Zoom room with us. If you're inside of the Zoom room with us, or what I like to call the live studio audience, please use the chat and the Q&A. I'm sure there's going to be a ton of questions around this one. I highly anticipate a very active session today. So if you've got questions around the Q&A or chat or what Steve's trying to explain, this at times gets very chunky, and I'll do my best to dumb it down like the 5-year-old that I usually am. But a lot of this stuff has some nuances to it, and I'm sure there's going to be a lot of questions. So please put your questions from inside of the room in the Q&A or in the chat. By the way, everybody who's in the chat room right now, just tell us where you're all checking in from. I'd really appreciate that. And then on LinkedIn land, if you're watching and monitoring this live stream right now, great to have you. Please put your questions inside of the feedback room, inside of the comments. Tina will be monitoring those comments and then feeding them to us, okay? All right, that's all the housekeeping I have. There's exits in the front and in the rear. The cocktail waitress will be around shortly. I mean, the steward, flight attendant will be around shortly. All right, Steve, let's get started. Steve Story, Apexlogistics. Steve, tell us a little bit about a background, who you are, what you do for Apexlogistics, and why you are the burning bush of this.
Sure. Good afternoon, all, or good morning, depending on your time zone. Steve Story, I'm the Executive Vice President with Customs and International Trade with Apex. Just a little brief background. I used to be with Flying Tiger Airlines. If you're young enough or old enough to remember them, I ran an aircraft hub for them in Columbus back in the late 80s. FedEx bought us out in 89. I was ran regulatory affairs for FedEx for a while. And then I was also with Arthur Anderson, ran their customs and international trade practice for the Midwest. In the late 90s, I started my own practice. Did my own practice for 16 years. Joined Apex 2 years ago, and we do this e-commerce clearance. I've been doing e-commerce clearance for 8 years now. Back when it was $200. So it is really the future, folks. E-commerce clearance, this $800 exemption, taking advantage of that is the future. So with that, I'll share my screen, and we can get started.
So Steve, I just want to make sure I understand while you're getting this whole thing set up. Essentially what we're talking about here, this is a custom strategy associated with bringing goods into the country in a completely different way than what we're used to doing, right? I mean, that's basically what we're talking about here.
Correct.
Fantastic.
Correct. It's an exemption that's been in place for a long time, but hardly anybody's been taking advantage of it. And with the extreme growth of e-commerce, It's the wave of the future, folks. It is the way to fulfill your small packages, low value.
Yeah, absolutely, for sure. And Steve doesn't know this because Steve and I just met over the last couple of weeks while we're prepping for this. Steve, I've got something I call the Mike Cadieux no-brainer list, right? One of those things is like, you know, auditing your AP, bringing in a third-party service and auditing your AP to make sure you're not paying your vendors twice. V-card payment solutions is a no-brainer for me. If you're not paying invoices with V-cards, that's a no-brainer. I think in the space, based on what you have told me about what's happening associated with the majority of the people who probably don't even know that this is an option right now, this is going to be added to my list of no-brainers on logistics and freight and customs clearance related strategies, because once you, and we'll get into it here over the next hour, once you start to do the mathematics in your head around how much money and how many opportunities there are for savings, this really goes on my list of, man, if you're not doing this, you're missing the boat. So that said, why don't we're going to let Steve jump in. We're going to talk a little bit about the 321 exemption. He's got an amazing example for us associated with a couple of things that just make me understand this better. And then we're also going to talk a little bit about some examples of, and he's got an amazing case study example for us of running something through the process of the old way and now running it through the new way, and shows the savings opportunity. So please stay with us. Great stuff today. Go ahead, Steve.
So here's our agenda of what we're going to cover today. Again, we'll talk about traditional logistics, just like Mike said. Then we're going to go into the example or the exemption, and then give you some examples of how this all works. So everybody's familiar, I would assume, if you're in procurement, purchasing, transportation, logistics, of what your traditional logistics stream is. I source I source products offshore in some foreign country. Doesn't matter where. I need parts to either fulfill my to put into my manufacturing operation or for my distribution operation. So I bring goods in. I pay duties and taxes, right? It gets delivered to my warehouse or my manufacturing site. I stock that merchandise into inventory. And then as I need it to either ship directly to customers, or I could use it in my manufacturing operations, I pick the merchandise. If I'm shipping it out, I pick and pack orders. If I'm doing manufacturing, then I would pull that from inventory and enter that into my bill of materials for building my finished product. And if you're picking pack orders, you're shipping it off to a customer. Either that customer is either a person, an individual, or a business. So this is your traditional, pretty much, it's been done this way for hundreds of years. So with the advent of e-commerce, especially, it's come to the forefront from the pandemic. This exemption has been around for a while. It's the same. Well, I'll get into the exemption in a minute. So in the e-commerce environment today, as you can see, we've got 21.96 billion monthly visits to online e-commerce sites. And what surprised me is, on our research, is the average value of what's bought online is 110 bucks, a little over 110 bucks, which fits very well into this exemption. Amazon, as everybody knows, has grown exponentially. Another interesting fact, 2002 parcels are shipped every second out of China. China is one of the biggest online fulfillment countries. And another interesting fact, 20 days, that's the average number of days between somebody going online and searching for a product, maybe leaving it in their cart, and then coming back and buying it. We're going to talk about the 321 data pilot a little bit. We can just go ahead and cover it now. So as part of the e-commerce environment, Customs is getting millions and millions of packages for clearance. Last month alone, in April, Customs cleared 46 million Section 321 shipments. 46 million. That was under entry type 86.
That's an incredible number, Steve. I mean, I know you told me that number in the walkthrough, but just hearing it again, I mean, 46. You're talking about 46 million packages are getting cleared by Customs. 2,000 parcels are being shipped every second, right?
Yep.
the fact that, and here's the key to this whole thing, I think, which is kind of the linchpin in the whole thing, is the average value of the online shopping order right now, which is being brought in from overseas, is approximately $110.62, right?
Yep.
And the key to that is, if it's under, I think it's under $800, you said, right? And we'll get into it as to how this works. But under $800 is the key ingredient here, folks. So it's amazing to me to see these numbers. I mean, I knew the e-commerce shipping, I knew the e-commerce industry was big, right? But what I didn't understand was how big and how vibrant the logistics aspect of bringing all this thing in was. So when you see it, when it's all kind of outlined like this, it's amazing. And the fact that, Apex is actually clearing 700,000 of these things a month is unbelievable as well, right? Because from my standpoint, I mean, I've got a history in the seafood industry. I've got a family that buys things overseas now. We buy them both domestically and internationally. And I don't really think about what it takes to get through customs clearance, other than, the occasional horror show that you hear that's like, oh yeah, I bought something and it ended up in customs and it's been there for a month and a half. And now, my coat that I was supposed to have, it's now the middle of summer and I won't need it anymore, right? So there's tons of examples like that where my wife is like, I don't understand. How come my thing got stuck in customs, right? So for me to be able to now understand all of this is truly amazing to me. But to see this slide and to see the sheer numbers on this thing is incredible.
I was at a customs conference last month. The beginning of the month, the National Customs Brokers Freight Forwarders Association.
Yep. And
customs related an interesting fact that I'm going to add to the slide for next time. In 2019, online retail sales was $343 billion. $343 billion in 2019. And the projection for 2024, it's expected to be up to $476 billion. E-commerce purchasing is the way to go. Everybody's shopping online. I mean, even down to domestically, get your groceries now that way.
Yeah. Yep.
So this is the future, folks. And if you don't take advantage of it, if you don't get ahead of the curve, you could be left behind by your competition. All right, let's talk about the exemption. This is the same exemption if you were to travel out of the country. When you come back, the stewardess gives you this little slip of paper for you to declare what you're bringing back. It used to be the exemption was anything up to $200. You didn't have to declare or pay any duty and tax on. Congress raised that exemption to $800 about 8 years ago. And the reason they did it is congressmen kept getting tired of declaring and paying duty and taxes when they visited foreign countries. They come back with gifts or whatever. And when they did the exemption, they didn't even tell customs, they just passed the law, and then customs had to deal with it. So the exemption is part of 19 U.S. code. That's the law, section 1321. We call it section 321 as an abbreviation. And then the regulation from that law is in 19 Code of Federal Regulations, 10.151. So subject to the conditions, and I won't read this. The big thing is shall pass free of duty. You can import anything free of duty and tax, one person per day, having a retail value of less than $800. That can be exhibited on a house bill, a manifest, under $800. Now the kicker is, unless the port director has reason to believe that the shipment is one of several lots covered by a single order or contract that was sent separately for the express purpose of securing free entry and avoiding compliance with any law or regulation. So if you have a purchase order of $10,000 to a foreign supplier, that foreign supplier cannot break up that purchase order and ship it in less than $800 increments on successive days. Customs will catch that. So this is a great exemption for fulfillment of anything under $800. Doesn't have to be an e-commerce purchase. E-commerce is taking the most advantage, but it's for any shipment under $800. And we're going to get into some examples of that. So this is what the exemption is. This is the law. Anything under $800 per person per day is duty free. Okay, you don't have to have a customs bond. For a certain type of clearance, you don't even have to have an HTS number, Harmonized Tariff System number. And person is defined as a business or an individual. Black's Law Dictionary defines person as a business or an individual. So this is good for B2C or B2B.
So I want to stop there just for 1 second, Steve, okay? Because I can remember leaving Charles de Gaulle Airport once with a whole bunch of macaroons, right? They have those French macaroons, which now you can buy everywhere in the world. But there was a point in time where you could only buy French macaroons in France. And they had a Lendo shop at the gate. And I think I bought about $400 worth of macaroons once to bring them home for my family because nobody had them before. And the scary part about that is I probably should have filled out a custom clearance certificate and declared my macaroons, or eaten half of them, or given some to the stewardesses or the flight attendants or something like that, right? But what you're saying essentially is, at least on a personal basis, the way I equate this in my brain is, hey, listen, I got to hand $150 worth of macaroons to 6 different people and get them through customs so that it doesn't look shady. And even if I did that, it looks shady. So if I take that to the commerce side, hey, listen, you can't take a $15,000 invoice and belt this thing down and say, okay, send me 17 invoices for $799 a piece, because the clearance customs is gonna see that and red tag that. But at the same time, what's happening here, and correct me if I'm wrong, is with COVID and the shift to e-commerce, there's an entire massive disruption in the supply chain of people aren't going to malls anymore and going through wholesale distributorship through warehouses. And because of that, there's a massive amount of coming in from overseas, coming through customs clearance and going directly to your like almost like ship to order, right? Even though you're a consumer brand, you're now a consumer brand that goes direct to consumer, right, at DTC, as opposed to wholesale distribution channel. And because of that, this is why this is so important, right?
It allows you to go direct to ultimate purchaser.
Yeah. So anybody that's listening right now, anybody that's in the space that is selling things through traditional wholesale distribution channels and is now pivoting because of COVID or pre-COVID, that was your strategy. If you're not aware of this exemption, you're leaving a ton of money on the table. And that's why I'm so excited about this. And that's why I love the fact that Steve's running through this with us today. So I'm sorry, Steve, I didn't mean to interrupt. I just, you made me think about that one flight with the macaroons where I think I overspent on macaroons and didn't declare it in customs. I'm happy I didn't go to jail on that, but.
Yeah, you should be happy you didn't go to jail.
I would have eaten half of them if I would have known. But, all right, go ahead. I'm sorry. Continue, please, and tell us more about this.
So under this exemption, customs allows 2 forms of entry. Entry means I'm bringing merchandise in, clearing it through customs. I'm entering merchandise into the commerce of the U.S. So under this exemption, there are 2 forms, 2 ways of taking advantage of it. First one is what we call manifest release. It's a simple manifest. It's an Excel spreadsheet of shipments. And the data elements for the manifest are fairly simple. Shipper name and address, consignee name and address, pieces, weight, value, country of origin, merchandise description, value. And each shipment on that manifest has to be less than $800. That manifest can be from one online marketplace like Alibaba, shipping to 5,000 individual purchasers, or it can be from individual sellers to individual purchasers, individual consignees. So the value of each shipment has to be less than 800. Have to have a first and last name of the consignee, that's required. For manifest release, an HTS number, Harmonized Tariff System classification, is not required. PGA regulated merchandise, when I say PGA, that is participating government agencies. There are 48 other government agencies that regulate imports besides customs, like FDA, Fish and Wildlife, USDA, FCC, Federal Communications Commission, Consumer Product Safety Commission, Department of State, Department of Commerce, on and on and on, EPA. Customs enforces the laws of all those 48 agencies. So each agency, depending on the merchandise, has their clearance requirements. They usually want additional information depending on what the merchandise is. So PGA regulated merchandise is really not permitted on the manifest release. The only exception I'll provide to that is FDA has given us a waiver for cosmetics and microwave emitting or radiation emitting devices like microwaves, radios, TV sets. Manifest is released for truck, rail, air, truck, or ocean. We transmit the manifest from origin. Customs reviews that manifest, and we're going to get into the process here in a second. And we just need a really good description of the merchandise. So that's manifest release. Manifest release averages 2 to 3 days. It's a manual release. Customs has to go into the ACE system, automated commercial environment, and release that manifest manually. Now, the second form, which is the way to go, in which we predominantly do the majority of our clearance, is entry type 86. Today, if you do formal clearance or traditional clearance, you're doing a type 01 entry if the merchandise is over $2,500. You're doing a type 11 entry if the merchandise is between $800 and $2,500. That's an informal entry to type 11. And then now we have this new type 86, which was started last year. It's an ABI. It's processed in ABI, the automated broker interface. It's an automated release. Customs doesn't have to do a thing. Again, the value can't exceed $800. For this form of release, we have to have a 10-digit HTS number. Okay. And PGA merchandise is eligible to be cleared if it is an HTS number that can be disclaimed. By disclaimed, I mean the participating government agency has said, yes, we're interested in that merchandise. Yes, we regulate that merchandise. But for this specific HTS number, we're not going to require any additional data other than just the HTS number. So it's basically a waiver by specific HTS number that the PGAs will let you get release. Entries are transmitted to U.S. Customs upon wheels up. So we transmit the manifest first, pre-departure of the aircraft, pre-departure of the vessel. Once the aircraft is left and we have wheels up, we then take that same manifest, apply an entry number to every house bill, and transmit all that data to via ABI, the automated broker interface, to Customs, and we get release usually before arrival of the aircraft or the day of arrival.
All right, I got to stop you there. I want to chew on that for a minute because there's a lot there to unpack, right? So first thing, we start talking about a customs. Is it a customs fee waiver or a customs cost waiver? Like what's the waiver? It's not a brokerage waiver. It's a customs fee, right? Is that what it is?
It's a waiver of customs duty.
Customs duty. Okay, thank you.
And the additional customs taxes that are associated to an import, like the merchandise processing fee.
All right, so it's a customs waiver and a tax waiver, basically associated with anything that's coming in on an individual bill of lading under $800. But then in addition to that, even if you take advantage of that, right? If you're not doing what I would call putting additional information, which doesn't seem like a lot, but if you're not putting additional information into the manifest, your stuff's gonna get stuck at customs for 2, 3, 4 days, however long that is. But if you do enhance the data associated with the manifest, you can actually do a type 86 that gets you through customs in an automated fashion. Usually has custom clearance before the thing even hits the ground in the U.S. Right?
Basically, if you have an HTS number, you get automated release.
Okay.
No HTS number, you're relegated to manual release.
Okay. So let me see if I understand this correctly, because I want to take this down to my 5-year-old level. I order, let's say my wife orders a piece of deck furniture from Wayfair that is being customized due to material, the print on the material, and it's being distributed to me from China, from mainland China, from one of their manufacturers, even though I bought it on Wayfair, right? Now Wayfair hands that acquisition, that purchase order off to their China operation. They then take this thing, they fulfill the order. It's, let's call it $550. So it's less than 700. It's a single bill of lading for $550. So if the people at Wayfair are going through you, they're getting an exemption associated with that particular piece that's coming through. And if the manifest has, I don't know, the fact that it's furniture, it's blue, it's 32 inches by 17, whatever the data is that's necessary, my wife gets her HACCP faster than if that wasn't the case, right? Is that basically it?
Under this form of logistics, we're taking thousands of shipments for Wayfair.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. Fair enough.
We consolidate that shipment with thousands of others onto one master bill of lading, one master airway bill. So a consolidation might be, let's say, 5,000 of those going to 5,000 individual purchasers.
But those 5,000 purchases are all coming from all of the clients of Apexlogistics that you're aggregating together on one bill of lading that's coming through, right?
Correct.
Okay. Yeah. All right. All right. I get it. I hope that cleaned that up for everybody. It certainly cleans it up for me. Quick question from the audience. There's a lot of questions from the audience already. So Steve, if you don't mind, I'm gonna press stop for 1 second. First question: can this be used for samples?
Of course.
Fantastic. Well, that's pretty definitive. Yes, it can be used for samples. Thank you. I don't know who asked that question. Hold on. Oh, Steph, thank you.
And the samples don't have to be mutilated, by the way, if it's textile material.
So if it's textile material, they don't need to be mutilated to be able to cover the exemption.
Correct.
Okay, great. Are there any special marking requirements, country of origin, etc.?
The standard marking requirements apply just as they would for anything valued over $800. Now, you have marking exemptions as well. So the marking rules, the marking exemptions apply also. So there are marking exemptions, like say if I order something and I know the origin is China, it doesn't have to be marked. If I'm ordering something and I label each individual box within an overpacked box, the outer box doesn't have to be marked, but the inner boxes do. So if you're thinking textiles, footwear, toys, yes, the same marking requirements apply.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Great. Good. Thank you for the questions. Thank you for the answer, Steve. Appreciate it. I got one more really quickly from EJ. Steve should, let's see, what does it say? Is it true that many countries of origin, China, are subject to additional $25 tariff, a 25% tariff on top of the normal duty tax, right? And I think we're going to talk about that a little bit in a little bit further down the presentation, right?
We are.
Great.
President came out with the Section 301 safeguard duties for anything from China. And depending on your tariff number, some goods are subject to 7% additional duty on top of your normal duty, and some are subject to additional 25% on top of your normal duty.
Yeah. So stay tuned for that. If you're importing from places that have extenuating certain country of origin tax, this may be another way to play the game on this as well, or optimize your cost basis. Sorry, I don't want to say play the game. God, that sounds horrible. Optimize your cost structure associated with that through your logistics and clearance process. All right, Steve, I'm sorry. Go ahead, continue.
Oh yeah, if you're subject to 301 duties, this is the way to go to legally not pay 301 duties by fulfilling your orders directly from origin to your ultimate purchasers. So here's the process. Here's how, in a macro view, here's how it works, folks. Our customer, the shipper, the e-commerce marketplace, the consolidator at origin, doesn't matter what country, gives us a manifest of all the shipments that are moving that day. We'll consolidate all those shipments onto a master bill. Each shipment has a house airway bill associated to it. And even farther back, each shipment has a tracking label of the last mile carrier applied at origin. So if I'm using the Postal Service for last mile post clearance, we'll put a Postal Service label on it, that package at origin, 30 to 35 digit tracking number. We use that the last 12 digits of that tracking number as a house airway bill number to transmit to customs. Customs manifest field is limited to 12 characters. So we can only transmit 12 characters. So we create a manifest. That's a list of all these shipments. And I'll use the example again of 5,000 individual purchasers, all consolidated onto a master bill, 5,000 house bills. So we transmit that manifest. The shipper provides that manifest to Apex via either API or some form of EDI. We can do AS2, we can do HTTPS. It doesn't matter. So when we get that manifest of all those shipments, well, we're going to review it for all the descriptions. Do we get good quality descriptions? Are there any prohibited items? We do have a list of prohibited items that you may not ship if they're regulated by PGAs. For example, feathers that are in a woman's hat. Feathers are regulated by Fish and Wildlife. For example, seashells or abalone shells that are buttons on a shirt or on a trumpet keys. Those are prohibited, especially anything that's regulated by the Convention of Trade and International Trade in Endangered Species. Those are prohibited items. And then your normal prohibited items. You can't ship money. So we do have a list of prohibited items. So our staff at Origin reviews for that. We review, do we have good consignee data, first and last name of the consignee. So then we scan those shipments in as that we receive them. We present that manifest, in this case in China, to China Export for export clearance. We then submit that same manifest, or it's actually a subset of the manifest, to Department of Homeland Security. It's called the ACAS transmission, Air Cargo Advanced Screening. I'll repeat that, Air Cargo Advanced Screening. It's sort of like your ISF for air freight. So a subset of that data goes to Department of Homeland Security, and they do their automated targeting. They will then return a response to us of, okay to load. Everything looks good. So then we transmit that same manifest, the full manifest, to the ACE Air Manifest System. And that's the full manifest data elements. So while the flight or vessel is en route, Customs is doing their exam selectivity. Customs has a targeting system. It's called the ATS, Automated Targeting System. And they have different criteria every day or weekly or monthly. They never tell us what it is. Their selectivity might say, hey, I'm looking for everything going to Joe Smith in Ottumwa, Iowa. I want to see all toys that are going to Racine, Wisconsin. I want to see any shipments going to this address. And just so happens that address might be a vacant lot in Chicago. So they do their selectivity, and they will select any shipments that they want to do for exam prior to arrival. So while the shipment's en route, as I stated before, we're gonna transmit the entries for entry type 86 upon wheels up of the aircraft. And all our entries are being built while the flight's en route. So upon arrival, we'll recover that consolidation, 5,000 house bills from the airline. And then if there are any customs examination, any house bills selected for exam, we'll extract those from the consolidation, set those aside for customs exam, and everything else is automatically released. I will say under entry type 86, this is such a great system. Our exam rate with really good descriptions and quality HTS numbers, our exam rate is less than 1/100th of 1%. Now you got to keep in mind, we've got a best practice process. Customs has even told us we have a best practice. We give a set of instructions to all our clients of how to do this, how to provide good descriptions. Customs doesn't want to see shoes on the manifest or on the entry. They want to see men's patent leather shoes. They don't want to see just dress. They prefer to see woman's 50% polyester, 50% cotton, mini dress. So by providing good descriptions, the merchandise breezes through entry. So once we do have clearance, we scan the shipments out, then we provide it to the last mile carrier. Last mile carrier can be any company of any domestic cartage agent of your choice. That includes the Postal Service, DHL Global Mail, FedEx ground, UPS ground. And most of our clients, we do this in 7 ports. Most of our clients will split their shipments up to where if the ultimate purchaser is on the West Coast, we'll do the clearance in LA or San Francisco and induct with the last mile provider there. If the ultimate purchaser is in the Midwest, we'll clear in Dallas or Chicago and induct with the last mile provider there. And then likewise, East Coast, we can do New York, Cincinnati, or Miami. It just gets you closer to the customer, so that then, fly it takes 1 day, clearance may take a day, half a day, and then 2 to 3 days last mile delivery. So your overall transit time ends up being 2 to 3 days for entry type 86. If you're using manifest release, ultimate transit time is about 3 to 5 days. So this is the overall macro. There's a lot more to it than this, but this is a macro of how the e-com process works.
So if I want to jump in here for a second. I mean, it's obvious this is a highly complex but understandable diagram, and I'm going to go back to it for a second. How my wife gets her HACCP out of Wayfair, right?
Yes, yeah.
I mean, this is it. This is the supply chain on how e-commerce direct to consumer works right now, right here on one slide, right?
Well, and I want to caveat that. This is freight clearance mode. So if you use FedEx, DHL, UPS, you got to keep in mind that is an express courier type of clearance under Section 128 of the regs.
Okay.
So their clearance is very similar to this.
Okay.
Very similar, but again, it's done in an express courier consignment facility, ECCF. So, but you're paying a lot more. If you use one of the integrated carriers, you're paying $1.07 a house bill more by using express clearance.
Okay,
This gives you the same clearance as express clearance at a lower price.
Okay. But there's a lot of places here. There's a lot of traps here, right? There's a lot of time traps here. Like you said, 1/100th of 1% examination selectivity rate on items that are going through your process, right? On wheels up approval that you're already working on for expedition, arrival, and recovery, scan and ship. I mean, there's days potentially being taken out of this process. And that all translates to, hey, my wife gets her HACCP faster, which makes her happy if Wayfair is using you as in this process as their expedition because of your knowledge of what needs to happen in order to get my wife her HACCP faster, which means she's going to go back to Wayfair and order more stuff, right? I mean, it's part of the customer experience ultimately, right?
True. Yeah, and we provide tracking events back to our e-commerce shippers.
Great.
So that they can report on their website, hey, the shipment's arrived. Hey, the shipment's cleared customs. Hey, the shipment's been tendered to the last mile carrier. Now you can track that on the Postal Service website or FedEx or UPS.
Mm-hmm. All right, I want to do a time check. It's already 1:40. We've already spent 40 minutes talking about this. I know we got a lot to get through, and I got more questions. Stephanie, what about exemptions like this in Canada? Is there something similar, or is this only for China to the U.S.? This is everything, right?
It's for any country to the U.S.
Okay.
The Canadian exemption is only $20.
Okay. Okay.
So we have 800. Canada has $20 for merchandise from any country except the U.S. and Mexico. And under the U.S.-Mexico Canada agreement, Canada has raised that de minimis to, I want to say it's 140. I can't remember off the top of my head.
Okay.
But it is a higher.
So if you're importing from China into Canada, there's a $20 exemption. If you're importing from China into the U.S., there's an $800 exemption.
Correct.
Okay, great. I got it. All right. Okay, here's a question from Nick. If shipping direct from the supplier in China, as an example, to end customer, how do you ensure your supplier does not see the commercial sales value of the product? Or do you actually care about that? I guess, I mean, I understand why you care about that because obviously, but is there a way in which your supplier does not see the commercial sales value of the product?
We can structure that the way that the client wants to. So if I'm fulfilling from China, let's say, I'm instructing a 3PL or even Apex to ship this merchandise on my behalf. Okay, I'm making the sale to a US customer. So I can put the invoice value inside. We recommend you put an invoice inside the package demonstrating the sale. So the invoice would cover my sales price from me to my ultimate customer. It's just being fulfilled direct from China.
Yep. Is drinkware considered regulated by the FDA?
Glassware is regulated by FDA, yes.
Okay. Okay. All right.
Now, is it disclaimable? That is something I would have to look at. I would think, I'm going to say it's probably, we can disclaim that, but I'd have to know the specific type of glassware. We're talking champagne glasses, flute glasses, drinking glasses, 6 inches high.
It's not glassware. The person in question is specifically asking around stainless steel, like tumblers and things like that. I'm guessing that they work for a tumbler-related company that I'm not going to mention.
If they provide us the HTS number, I can tell you exactly.
All right, great. Well, you two can take that offline. I don't want to sidetrack it, but obviously a lot of interest about what you're talking about right now. And I think that there's a lot of follow-up that needs to happen. Steve, let's keep going because I don't want to run out of time here. So I want to make sure everybody gets there, and I want to make sure we get to the 301 thing too as well.
So we talked about traditional logistics. Under the e-commerce or direct-to-consumer logistics, I call it, we label the packages with the last mile carrier label at origin, anything under $800.
Yep.
We fly it to one of our gateways.
Yep.
Any packages selected for exam, we extract from the console.
Yep.
We get clearance, then we hand the shipment over to the last mile carrier. And that last mile carrier can be any one of the 4 that are available. There's also postage resellers like Pitney Bowes, like OSM, who will resell postage to our clients, and they use them for their rates for postal service. And then the shipment gets delivered to your mailbox, or if it's going to a business, to the store. So this is the high level of the e-commerce or direct-to-consumer logistics.
So I want to ask you a question about that before we jump to the, on the first slide, you told me you're clearing 700,000 packages a month, right?
Correct.
That means that out of the 700,000 packages that you're clearing right now, your examination rate is about 700 packages out of 700,000. That's about 1/100th of 1%.
It's about, yeah, it's actually less than that. It's more like 70.
70? Okay, I'm sorry, then I screwed up the math. But my point is, it's an obscenely low number of packages that are being pulled, right?
Right.
Okay, great. All right, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. Go ahead, continue.
So if you do your traditional import logistics, here's just an example for a cell phone screen protector. We have a client actually ships these. So the HTS number and the duty rate, the normal duty rate is 5%. So under the safeguard duties, there's an additional 7% duty as a result of the Section 301 safeguards. So in this example, if you were to import traditionally 10,000 units in bulk, let's say they're valued at $6 each, 60,000 entered value, the duty would be about 3,000. The Section 301 duty, in addition, would be 4,200. You got to pay the MPF, the merchandise processing fee. So your total duty and tax in this example, a little over $7,000. On top of this traditional import, I'm taking it to one of my distribution centers in the US, or I'm taking it to my manufacturing plant. My additional costs that aren't covered, that are in addition to, to just the cost of doing business. I got to pay inventory taxes on that inventory that I hold. I have to pay insurance. When I make a domestic sale from a DC to a US buyer, I got to pay a domestic sales tax on that, right?
Yeah.
Real estate tax. I got my domestic labor, and then I also got to pay that labor benefits, not to mention building maintenance. So these are just some of the expenses that an average importer would have from traditional logistics. Now, I use the example of only 10,000 units. Extrapolate and take that to 500,000 units that I'm going to bring in and hold in inventory for my sales to my ultimate customers.
Yeah, you're talking $350,000 in tax and
It
duty.
goes up even more. So this is just a simple example.
Yeah.
So if I take
I want to make a point there. I want to make a point there, Steve. I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt. But you just made a paradigm shift for me, which is when you mentioned the word that if you're shipping this to a manufacturing facility. So we've been talking direct to consumer the whole time, but all of this applies if you're importing a subcomponent associated with something that you're manufacturing in the United States as well, right?
Yes, it does, but you're still limited by the $800 per day exemption.
I get that, but if you're doing on-demand print associated with mugs coming in from out of the United States, and you've got a mug printing operation in, I don't know, Delaware, but you're bringing in, I don't know, a couple cases of mugs at one given time that are under $800, as long as it's under $800 and it's sitting in your warehouse, you can be running a custom print manufacturing shop, and you're eliminating that, because you might not be selling, you might be selling the mug to the end user, or you might just be the manufacturer, and you can lower your costs on manufacturing costs of importation of a sub product that then becomes your product, which then, I don't know, printondemand.com is using you because it's printed, packaged, and shipped out of the US.
That is a good example. Another good example is warranty parts.
Yep, perfect.
I sell a product and I've got a warranty on it. And if something breaks on that product, I have to provide parts to fix that finished good. Well,
This is climbing on my no-brainer list the more we talk, brother. I'm telling you, I love this. All right, go ahead, continue.
So why stage warranty parts in a warehouse in the United States when I could fulfill those when I get a request for that from origin and have it shipped in 2 to 3, 4 days?
Yep.
So some warranty parts might go obsolete, and I'd end up having to trash them or dispose of them. My inventory might turn over very slowly, and I'm paying inventory taxes on stock that moves extremely slow, or that I may not sell at all. So just as another example. So if we shift our paradigm here, okay, and we do direct from origin rather than stocking merchandise in the States. Same cell phone screen protector, I ship 10,000 units. In this case, I'm selling them at $25 each. That's my sale price. My cost is $6. So total manifest value for 10,000 individual consignees on a manifest, 250,000, but each one of the cell phone screen protectors is under $800. Okay, I fly it to the United States, I clear it at one of our gateways, right? We then hand those 10,000 shipments over to a last mile carrier, and it gets delivered to the mailbox, the store, the ultimate purchaser. Now, if I shift my paradigm, I'm no longer paying $3,000. I'm no longer paying over $7,000 in duty for this example. I also am not paying inventory taxes, insurance, domestic sales tax. Any of my domestic costs are eliminated. So for those products, those parts, those finished goods that this can apply to, there can be substantial savings. Tremendous savings, put it that way. If you shift your paradigm from fulfilling from domestic locations to fulfilling domestic directly from origin. So we've kind of given an example. We've talked about the duty elimination. There's no duty, it's duty free. The Section 301 duty, you're eliminating that. So if you have a product like cell phone chargers that are at 25% duty, and you're bringing those in bulk and paying 25% duty on that, you can shift your paradigm and ship those into individual ultimate purchasers and eliminate 25% of your cost.
But the reality is, Steve, is that probably somebody who's doing direct-to-consumer cell phone charges has already worked that duty into their margin. And then by taking advantage of this, that becomes 100% margin to them, right?
Exactly.
God. All right. Yeah, I'm with you, man.
So you've got
this is an enlightening moment for me.
So you've got
I might get in the import-export business because of this presentation.
Hey, we are hiring. We are hiring.
I might open up a cell phone charging company and just take advantage of the margin call that you just called out. All right, go ahead, continue. I'm sorry.
So, the tremendous advantage of inventory reduction. Products only shipped when it's ordered. It eliminates storing unsold product and parts that are never ordered or obsolete stock. And I mentioned the warranty stock example.
Yep.
Just a tremendous expense reduction in inventory taxes. If you can imagine, go to your tax guy or your finance guy at your company and ask them, what was our inventory tax last year for 2020? How much did we pay? How much real estate tax did we pay? What was the sales tax that we paid last year? There's your automatic savings that you can get from your tax or finance person. And in the transit time frame, again, you're looking at 3 to 5 days for type 86, 5 to 7 days for manifest release. The majority of people that I've seen in surveys don't mind waiting 3 to 5 days to get something that they order online, or for a warranty part, something that they can track is on the way. Now, if you need it next day, keep using Amazon Prime. But if your sales cycle, your fulfillment cycle is eligible for this, this is a great opportunity, folks. This is the future. This is the future. Okay, let's talk about FBA, Fulfillment by Amazon. We have shippers in foreign countries who want to stock their merchandise in a U.S. distribution center. It can be Amazon, it could be any 3PL that is fulfilling domestically. So there was a special ruling issued back in July last year. It was actually my ruling that it took me 2 years to get approved by Customs Officer regulations and rulings that allows for a non-resident importer to take advantage of the Section 321 exemption. And the way it works is the shipper in China, let's say his name's Sam Chen. I'm going to stock my merchandise in an Amazon distribution center so that I can take advantage of Amazon Prime when somebody orders it off Amazon. But I don't have an entity in the United States. I don't have anybody to act as my consignee. I don't have anybody that would act as my importer of record. Amazon won't be an importer of record. They refuse to. So if I'm a foreign individual, how can I stock my merchandise at a distribution center like Amazon in the United States? Well, I can take advantage of this new ruling from Steve's story. I can be the shipper, the seller, and Sam Chen can also be the consignee and the buyer. So it's like Sam Chen is shipping to himself, care of Amazon. On the manifest, we show Sam Chen as the shipper, his address in Shanghai. As the consignee, we show Sam Chen as the consignee name, care of Amazon, and the Amazon distribution center address. So by address, I can ship up to $800 per day. So in this example, I'm Universe Trading. I've got 3 shipments that are going out. 2 of them are going to an Amazon in Los Angeles. Total value of those are $600. A third shipment is going to Amazon in Lincoln in New York, and that's $400. So all total, I'm shipping out $1,000, but I'm shipping to 2 different addresses. Okay. So this is how you take advantage of the story ruling for non-resident importer for Section 321. I've got another example. 2 different shippers on the same manifest. Future Trading, Excel company. In this example, 2 shipments going to LA, Amazon, $600. Shipments 1 and 2. Shipment number 3 is going to Amazon in New York. It's $400. So Future Trading shipping $1,000, but it's 2 different Amazon, 2 different addresses. Again, the exemption is per person per day, and for the ruling, it's per person per address per day. So I've also got Excel company that's shipping shipments 4 and 5. One of those shipments is going to the same Amazon location as my other shipper, Future Trading, 123 Main Street. So the LA Amazon distribution center is receiving $750 in shipments. Shipment 4, shipments 1 and 2. Shipments 5 and 6 are going to a different Amazon, or these are going to a 3PL. I'm sorry, another Amazon in Racine, Wisconsin. So those two shipments add up to $750. So this is how, if you have small, medium enterprises overseas, or you want to ship to Amazon FBA, it's a non-resident importer solution for Section 321 exemption.
This is absolutely brilliant.
Well, you can do non-resident importer for normal formal entries and informal entries, and that's what got me thinking 4 years ago, why can't I do it for Section 321? And Customs fought it for 2 years, but I finally got the ruling approved.
All right, so we got 4 minutes left, right, Steve?
Okay, so any questions we want to answer before we,
Somebody asked a question, is this mostly for air freight? Like consumers can buy from China, being forced to choose between insane prices or 30-day shipping.
it is eligible for ocean freight. We will have an ocean freight solution by mid-June. And I see it as a great solution for like IKEA, heavy furniture that's under $800.
Yep.
Ship it via ocean, fast boat, 2 to 3 weeks.
Yep.
Low shipping costs. So yes, it is eligible for ocean, and it's also eligible for truck. We do it for truck shipments across the border from Canada. We have an e-commerce fulfillment client in Canada that takes advantage of this.
Is that trucking that comes in from Mexico as well?
Yes.
Or Latin America? Yeah, it's brilliant, 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 brilliant.
So in the interest of time, who's Apex? Well, we're worldwide. We're a $1.5 billion company, 41 offices all over the world. We're in 70 countries. Freight forwarding, e-commerce we talked about, contract logistics, customs brokerage. We're huge in China. We're the second largest forwarder out of China. And just a little slide of all of our offices in the interest of time. Anybody wants a copy of this, we'll provide it. A little bit about our staff. I've been doing customs compliance, customs license for 35 years. And we do a lot of trade advocacy. So not only do we provide the service, but we participate in the Customs Trade Support Network and the Customs Operations Advisory Committee. I serve on the e-commerce committee for both of those customs advisory committees. So we attempt to influence customs on how they write the laws or how they write the regulations and the procedures and the processes that apply to e-commerce. They allow us to give input and say, hey, this works, or no, this isn't going to work. You're out of your crazy mind.
Steve, quick question. I'm sorry. I just want to make sure I cover this. How do people get in touch with you? I got a couple of people looking for your LinkedIn profile to connect with you. Do you have a LinkedIn profile? How do people get in touch with Steve Story directly? Oh, there it is. All right. Sorry. Do you carry a LinkedIn profile with you, Steve, or no?
Of course. Who doesn't these days?
All right, brother. I'm just checking. I don't know.
Who doesn't?
All right. So, Steve, if you could get me the information associated with your LinkedIn profile so that everybody can find you. There's a bunch of people, I think, that want to continue this conversation with you. His information is up on the screen right now. If you can see that, call the guy, email the guy, send a carrier pigeon to talk to this guy. There are hundreds of ideas running around in my head right now based on what we just talked about with Steve. Steve, one last thing. If there's one takeaway you can leave the folks that have been in the room for the last 60 minutes with, what is the one takeaway you'd like to leave them with?
Think of logistics in a new way. Don't think the traditional way of I have to bring everything in bulk, store it in a warehouse, and fulfill that way. Shift the paradigm. Do you have a product that is eligible for this business model? And if you do, take advantage of it. Why pay duty? Again, go ask your finance, your tax guys, how much duty did I pay last year? How much inventory taxes did I pay? There's your answers.
Yeah, I mean, that's the part that really scares me, right? Is the fact that we just walked through an entire presentation on how to reduce your costs associated with customs, but at the same time, this paradigm shift of completely changing the supply chain flow eliminates warehousing needs, staffing needs, inventory tax, real estate. There's so much on top of this that that I think we got to come back again. Steve, thank you so much for my personal education on this front. Thank you to the Apexlogistics team for being a permanent resident sponsor of Procurement Foundry. I'm going to get up online and on LinkedIn and tell everybody I can about to go back and watch this, because we had a good audience here today. Thank you for everybody who came in and got some questions in. I really appreciate that. But I think we're going to have a lot more people go back and review the videotape on this thing, because there's so many value nuggets in here that that just take a couple of seconds to digest, and then you see the possibilities. So anyway, Steve, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Thanks for taking the time today to kind of walk us through, you know, the 301, the 086, what is it? The three, I apologize. 320, the 321. I almost said 312, the 321 clock, right?
Yeah.
Thank you so much for walking us through that. I feel much smarter now because I've just spent an hour with you. So thank you. And Steve's information on the screen. We'll get his LinkedIn information tagged in on LinkedIn as well. And thank you, Steve. We're going to be back again talking about this again. I know we are, man.
Thank you for having me.
All right, take care, everybody. Have a great day. Thanks for coming in for the hour. Really appreciate it. Oh, there he is. All right, great. Thanks again for coming in. Thanks for asking all your questions. Love the content today, and keep it coming. So, all right, take care, everybody. Have a great week.
Okay.
Bye-bye.